We got a phone call on Friday afternoon saying that a woman that we knew, a friend of the family, Dana Mooney, was basically being subjected to medical kidnapping, and that's how our afternoon started on Friday. And so what had happened is the anonymous phone tip line for DHS was used to raise accusations against the family, many of which were false, and so it had weaponized that system to notify the media, or I'm sorry, notify DHS that there was medical neglect, which was not true. Right. We got a phone call on Friday afternoon saying that a woman that we knew, a friend of the family, Dana Mooney, was basically being subjected to medical kidnapping, and that's how our afternoon started on Friday. And so what had happened is the anonymous phone tip line for DHS was used to raise accusations against the family, many of which were false, and so it had weaponized that system to notify the media, or I'm sorry, notify DHS that there was medical neglect, which was not true. Right. We got a phone call on Friday afternoon saying that a woman that we knew, a friend of the family, Dana Mooney, was basically being subjected to medical kidnapping, and that's how our afternoon started on Friday. And so what had happened is
that was interesting, wasn't it? Oh, I can't hear you. Mike, you're on mute. You started on mute. What happened there?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why that. Maybe you did that.
I did it. Yes, of course.
You're the producer. You did it.
Didn't you love that though? Just the dual. I told Katy earlier. I said we should have put dueling banjos back in the background. That
would have been. Hey, AI will do that for you. AI will kick that out pretty quick.
Yeah, me and AI. No, thank you. But well, I may do that anyway. I may just re-edit it and put it together with the dueling banjos in the background.
Hey, the way I look at it, Jenny, AI can be a tool for good or for bad. It's not just all bad. I think you can use it to your advantage.
All right. Well, who cares? Okay. So my shirt this morning, designed by Kimberly McMillan. Okie, not wokey.
Yeah, that is hilarious.
I just think that's the best thing ever. I was like, I'm wearing that one today. So what's yours?
Won't tread on me.
Okay. All right. Won't tread. Oh, it's an imperative.
Yeah, won't.
It's not a
this won't tread on me. There we go.
Yep, that's an imperative. That's a new one. I haven't seen that one. So did you see the show from Wednesday with the insurance commissioners?
Excellent. I think you need to do more shows like that.
Well, I'll tell you what, and let me say this loud and clear. Kayla Blount she needs to have like an E tattooed on her forehead. She is the most efficient person I have ever met in my life. I mean, all you have to do is make a suggestion to that girl and she's like, here you go. So her husband, Jeff, who works in audio visuals, does big things for, big companies, has this board, and it's like a smart board that they're selling to people, to like teachers, to schools for classrooms. And basically the board is I'm not into audio visuals, so I don't know, but the board is like a monitor, but not only is it a monitor, it's also Wi-Fi enabled and all of this other stuff. So what Jeff did was he put up this big board in there and then trained the camera, and the camera, I didn't know what it was called. It's called an owl camera. It follows you wherever you go. So the person that's moving, it follows. It's absolutely crazy and creepy. I got to tell you, it's creepy because there's a whole bunch of other stuff to it too, but we'll leave that for another day. It was just the coolest thing because it got all of us in there and it was just amazing. I mean, so Jeff and Kayla Blount, God bless you. They were the ones who really did that. I just sat in the chair. So, and Kayla had the questions, and I mean, that girl, she on the ball all the time. She is. So anyway, that was what went down on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And
I thought it was great.
Well, she devised some really, really great questions. So if you haven't seen that video, you really do need to go see the video for yourself because I thought it was very highly instructive. And there were some comments. I mean, we had a huge audience. I was surprised how many people were on. We had a huge audience. And so the way that what we saw on the board is what you and I see when we get onto StreamYard. So it was the whole board. And so I could see the comments coming in, on the side. And so we would read off some of the comments, and we had some great comments and some people really good questions. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very good. And I thought that if you want to have a better idea of the 3 people who are running for insurance commissioner, that is the way you do it. Now, I definitely suggest asking more questions, and getting to know them a little better. But I definitely think your start is there.
Well, I just think it's a good practice, for just a good service, I guess maybe for the community or whoever to have those type of discussions with everybody at the same time. So we could do those. Maybe doesn't have to be in person. We could do more of those where we're all on the podcast together. But I think, it could almost be like a mini forum type of deal where doesn't have to be so organized in some big place and advertising all this stuff. You just get to know these people kind of on an intimate level, and you can ask questions right there. You can ask questions and have them, not be sidestepped by some person like non-doc or whoever that's moderating the deal. That's not going to give you a chance to ask a legitimate question to one of these people. I think it's fantastic.
Or them to be able to give a legitimate answer because you're asking them some kind of wacko question. And she asked very pointed questions because people are genuinely concerned about the rise in their insurance rates, genuinely concerned. And all 3 of the guys, well, I don't think so much Marty, but the other 2 guys, Bob and Chris, said that everywhere they went, people are just inundating them with them. Why is my insurance so high? Why is my insurance so high? So it's a thing. And if you guys don't get out there and vote, and if you don't get, really look at these guys and vet them, things aren't going to get any better. And, I kind of have a favorite. I'm not going to say so yet, but I kind of have a favorite after Wednesday. And we'll kind of have to see how things go, but, I don't know. I mean, this is such an important thing. And I know people are like, insurance commissioner. Yeah, but the insurance commissioner makes a big difference. I mean, the insurance commissioner literally can say, no, we're not going to accept those rates. That's not what we're going to do. It's not going to happen. You can take those rates and peddle them somewhere else. And part of the reason why that doesn't happen is because insurance commissioners could be afraid that we're not going to get insurance companies in here, enough of them to really give the population a choice, because they'll say, well, if don't get to have my right, then I'm not coming here. Right. But the problem is at this point, and I think 2 of them, if not all 3 of them, did definitely say Oklahoma's getting screwed over for the rates and other, for the things.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Absolutely. So it's got to stop, and it's not going to stop unless we get a good insurance commissioner in. So
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, we have properties, all over the country. And within the last couple years, probably within the last 2.5, 3 years, our homeowners policies here in our regular car insurance here is almost the same as what it cost us in Florida and New York and some of these other places that you would not think, that are very high cost of living cities or towns. Our policies are just as high here as what those policies are there.
yeah, it's not. And Kayla was explaining to me about some other things. So again, I don't want to take up too much time because we've got such a great conversation with Katy to have here in a second. But what I do want to say is this: please watch that. I mean, Kayla went to all that trouble. Jeff went to all that trouble. We went to all that trouble. Please watch it and share it. Because that's how you're gonna, that's how you're gonna get to know. Ed says, and this is a good point, Ed. We need a list of good candidates to vote for, to campaign for, but we need a reliable source.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. Good morning, Jana. Jana, I have to talk to you about something. So if I don't call you today, please call me back. I think. So that we say it now, we'll say it again at the end, that we're taking December off. So we will not have any we will have live broadcasts, but there'll be replays. And we're going to talk to Katy about what we decided to do for December. And then this will be our last live broadcast until after the 1st, because next week is Thanksgiving week, and we're going to have some replays on that one too. They'll be good. So don't forget to tune in. But we're definitely going to take some time off and then pick it right back up after January 1st. So, all right. Do we want to bring on Miss Katy this morning?
Yeah, for sure.
I do. Good morning, Miss Katy.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing so much better. So what did you and I decide that we were going to do for December?
So December, which I'm very thankful for, is going to be DHS December. And we're going to focus on all the coverage, which you may have more, but I know some of the ones that we've all gotten together to discuss. The fervor around malfeasance in DHS is at a din that I've never heard before. People are done when we have politicians squashing grand jury petitions. Current candidates for governor intervening in a grand jury petition and quashing it. Current Speaker of the House. And this story we're going to talk about today, there's so much going on with DHS, and there are so many families coming forward. I have an entire paper on my wall covered with potential stories from families just reaching out because they've been silenced. It's heartbreaking. They don't have their children. The courts are a problem. It's just an all-around cover-up, and they've gotten away with it for so long, but you can only hold down something that important for a certain amount of time. So you have very graciously allowed December to be DHS December, where we really go through and don't forget about these egregious cases that lay it all out.
Yep. So, and I want people watching we all want people watching those and sharing them with your legislators and this is why we wanted to do it all in December. It's going to be right there in a little packet. No matter when you tune in, that's what it's going to be about. Guys, pay attention, please, and share.
I think it's going to be one of the big issues in this election cycle. It's the place where you see individual constituents being not only ignored by their politicians, but being attacked when that family is being crushed by a state agency. So people,
it's a pretty good segue.
It is, actually, it is. And I liked your banjo idea, but I think it'd be more like, I don't know, a kazoo and an electric guitar with a big amp on these sides.
Were you going to say something, Michael?
Yeah, I was just going to ask Katy, with all your, you've probably got the most extensive coverage of anybody in this state on all the DHS stuff. In your opinion, what would be the motivation for these higher executive type politicians, you know, like the governor or whoever, why would they quash these things? Why would they, you know, I mean, is it just financial? Is it just a black mark on their own administration? I mean, what do you think? Why would they interfere the way they interfere?
I would say a little of both of those things, but the money talks. It's the money. If you look at their campaign accounts, and a lot of times, just like we're going to talk about today, the positions of power that they hold in the legislature, you can really track their motivations. You can track that they're getting, like in this case, we're going to talk about a politician who absolutely, I mean, I've published it in an article, getting hundreds of thousands of dollars in a campaign account when this person had no primary opponent, running against no one in the primary, running against no one in the general election, yet they're filling his campaign account with hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's almost all PACs, lobbyists associated with his oversight responsibilities, directly associated with those agencies, with those contracts, with the things that he's responsible to be stepping in on behalf of Oklahomans and correcting. And then individual providers as well, who he has control over the licensure boards for these individual providers. So there's just this structure of power that feeds this. So, and people need to understand that once those campaign accounts, once the campaign's over, that's the money that they wine and dine off of. That's the money that they live off of. We have a lot of legislators who have next to nothing in those accounts. And when they're running around the state, and it's not when the legislature is in session, they're paying for all of those expenses to be going around and doing the work that they're doing on the behalf of people. The good ones have very little money. The ones who seem to always be wrapped up in like what we're going to talk about today and not defending, have a war chest, as I would say. And that brings them power. They wine, they dine, they actually contribute. If you ever want to really track the cabal, who's in the cabal that is not serving people, that is at the state capitol and the legislature, go to the Oklahoma Ethics Commission Guardian if they ever have it running again at a critical time in the year. That's another discussion. And see who these heavyweights who are getting all this money from the lobbyists, it's all consolidated. And then they parcel it out to other candidates. That is how they bring that great candidate in your area that you voted for, that you thought had their head screwed on straight, and they bring them under their wing. They make them dependent on them to have any money in their campaign account to function off of. And therefore, they have their ties into them. They can influence them on votes. They can influence them on all kinds of things. So it is, when it really comes down to it, in several angles, it's money. Money over kids, money over families.
Well, I was just thinking as you were talking, you know, when Kevin Wallace went out, you know, when Jim beat him, he had, I think, a little over $1 million, if not under $1 million in his campaign account. So after they lose and that money is still in their campaign account, they're allowed to donate that to other active campaigns. And so long as they can show where the money went. So it is and they're constantly donating money to each other. And it just irritates the absolute crap out of me, because if I donate to some candidate, I don't want that candidate giving my money to somebody else. I mean, we've already got the government taking my money, giving it to somebody else. I gave the money to you, not for you to donate to another candidate, especially one that I may not agree with. So I hate it. I don't like the practice. But one thing, let me get a couple of the comments in though before we go on. Does Karen know something I don't know? I mean, I pray for Dana.
Actually, the last time that I interviewed Dana Mooney, there was something scheduled for a meeting with DHS this morning.
Oh, goodness. Okay. I
So,
didn't realize that.
yes.
Okay, then we absolutely. Jesus, please help Dana. Please see justice served. Jesus, please.
Yes.
Amen. All right.
Yep.
Gracie says it's all about money, power, and control. John says not just interfere, but not do a thing when they could or can, like the AG.
Yeah, I got a major problem there.
And I will tell you, Oh, John Boy's always spot on your show. I will tell you, we're going to talk about Senator Rosino, who's the chair of the HHS, Health and Human Services Committee. And in my second article, oh no, it was an article back in the summer after the crazy Senate standoff in the middle of the night. I published a document where Senator Rosino was taking some of his war chest and gifting it over to Gentner Drummond's account. So you start to see the political alliances. It becomes like political Survivor, where there's these alliances behind the scene, and these politicians are completely forgetting that they're supposed to be allied with their constituents. They forget their constituents even exist. And this particular, that's why I thought it was important to chronicle. I mean, this story that we're talking about the reactions to the Dana Mooney medical kidnapping, there's a fervor on social media and people see it. And this is almost satirical. It's ridiculous what we've become as a state government in Oklahoma, but it goes by, which is why I thought it's so important to chronicle and really dig into what these people are doing in front of the camera and what they're doing behind the scenes, or what they're not doing. It's just really telling.
Okay, so let's play, because this is really, these videos predicate what you're going to talk about in the article that you wrote. So I'm going to put, hold on.
Some of the rhetoric is going to put
okay, stop. Stop, you little, stop it.
More concerning for me.
Okay, there.
Okay, do we want to set this up? Go ahead.
Yes, you set this up, and then we'll play it.
Okay, well, the Dana Mooney, and people know about her son, Preston, so I'm not going to review all of that. You can go to V1SUT, which see behind me, V1SUT.com. There are now 3 different articles. But when that really broke, when that child was grabbed by DHS and taken to OU Children's Hospital, and all medical freedoms were removed, all parental choices were removed, it hit the media fast. The Mooney family is politically connected. She's a Moms for Liberty chair here. She is their legislative liaison for the National Moms for Liberty. This is someone who fights for other parents. So there were people there to fight for her when the time came. Lesson to all. So as soon as I published a pretty detailed article about the whole thing, I interviewed Preston. As soon as that happened, on a local show called Your Vote Counts, which is Scott Mitchell, former Representative Democrat Dunnington, and Republican Paul Rosino, who's our Health and Human Services chair, very, very powerful position, instantly, ran to the media on their Sunday morning thing. And without any investigation, I can tell you, even to this day, Paul Rosino, who is the Mooney family's senator of record, they live in his district. He has yet to contact them. He's spoken extensively in public media about this, defending DHS every time. He has not interviewed anyone in the Mooney family. He has not talked to their attorneys, but he felt that he was qualified to come indemnify this agency that he has primary oversight over, and basically tell everyone in the independent media that they're lying. Every fact that they're putting out is misinformation. You'll notice they never specify what the inaccuracies are. They never say they're not accurate or this is dangerous information because they said this. It's just very general fear spreading with the conclusion that you need to trust the government.
All right, now we're going to have to, unfortunately, the audio is not terribly loud, so we're going to have to listen carefully.
Is that some of the rhetoric is going to put children in harm because there are some things being said about state agencies taking and kidnapping kids, medical kidnapping, all those things, and it's so untrue and it's unfair. It's unfair to the kids in the future who may need this assistance, and it's unfair to the people like me who are serving and trying to do an honest job and come to work every day and do what's best for Oklahomans. I would venture to guess that most Oklahomans see through all of this and know that it's not true, but the fact that they continue to get a platform to talk about it is even more infuriating.
Okay, now here's the funny part to me. This guy is the Mooney family senator. Did he say anything about Dana Mooney? Did he say anything about the kid? Did he say anything about anything other than, I'm offended that you people would say about this, and I go to work and I work hard every day for, you never said the people, Paul. You never said you work hard for the people. I mean, honestly, that is the most tellingly tyrannical rant I have ever heard a so-called elected official make. It's sincerely ridiculous. And if the people, well, unfortunately, I think Rosino's out this next year, term limited, isn't he?
No.
Oh,
no.
he's not. Well,
Which
then get rid of this man. People.
So he comes up in 2028, and we do have term limits, but he took over the seat of his predecessor at a partial term for campaign finance scandal there too. So apparently got a problem in this district. Since he served only a partial term, he is eligible to run one more time in 2028. So when we think about term limits, and the people voted in term limits, and that was a good thing to get rid of some of these folks who aren't representing the people, but it also sort of we find great people. Like when we talk about this story about Senator Jett, and we watch behind closed doors, as we'll see, that he was sticking up for a constituent. Unfortunately, we're going to lose Senator Jett to term limits here coming up pretty quickly. But this is a person who will serve longer than any senator has since we've had term limits because of this little caveat. The power he has already is immense. I cannot imagine another term and what that will do to Oklahoma families.
Yeah, I've got to read some of these comments. I'm sorry. They're just hysterical. Oh, shoot. You can't see it. It says Republican no longer means conservative in too many cases. And that's true. Jeremy says, look at those dead eyes while he pretends empathy. And our friend Roberta says, I think his eye twitched when he said honest job. And Catherine said, didn't Stitt ask about Rosino's wife having some part in a scandal with the mental health money that was missing? And he's offended? Oh, wow. What's new? Everyone's always offended by something. Eye roll. And then Rosino's got to go. And then Karen says Rosino is full of it. And Rep Brian Hill has also never contacted Dana, and that's her other rep. Too many legislators are silent. John Boy says that's why his nose is turned up. The smell of the BS he just spewed.
He actually used the word infuriated when talking about the fact that we're all on here today. We have a platform. He's infuriated that people still have a platform to honestly discuss their government.
He would be one of the ones in Europe today that would be arresting you and me and Michael for saying, giving false information on that. That's who Rosino is. He would be the guy going, well, they need to be arrested because they're giving false information. Blah. There is no false information about that. And if he had actually taken 2 minutes to either return any of your calls or emails or spoken to his own dang constituent, he would have known there was something to this. But he's not affiliated with any desire to help people. His desire is to perpetuate the legislative state. That's what it is. It's called tyranny.
Yeah,
it is. And I can tell you from the governor down, I mean, we're talking about the governor, we're talking about the AG, we're talking about Jeffrey Cartmel, who's the director of DHS, consistently will not even respond with a no thanks for a request for comment or interview. They will not acknowledge the independent media. And as we go forward and we're talking about how these men are discussing, there are just absolutely no facts. There's not even an assertion of a fact in anything of that they're saying. And the independent media, I mean, we have to prove everything we say. We have to put everything out there, every link, every document. So the absurdity of this is so far beyond. But the great thing is,
goodness, And let's think about this. And then if you're accused or you actually did put out some misinformation that you did correct later, then you have the election board sending you for investigation to the DA and the AG's office. Let's not forget that, shall we?
Right. You're right. They are. I mean, you can see how, and when you look at this particular case of the Moonies, you know, the entire second article was, well, a good portion of it was about the culture of the agency, particularly at the Canadian County DHS office. They have a whole new format over there now, which is with this Youth Justice Center, which has really become like a parental injustice center. And when you look what's going on over there and you look at the political ideologies, the overwhelming political standing and activism of those who are in supervisory roles, you really start to see how someone like Dana Mooney can be absolutely relentlessly targeted in the scariest way. I mean, the goal of this, observably, as we've moved through the process, we've had 2 different hearings. DHS has been caught omitting information that would have been very helpful and critical in the judge making decisions and lying about other information. You can see the weaponization of an agency. And just like you're saying, these people can weaponize against you and come after you with an election board, with DHS, with a number of other agencies.
Yep. So let's play this one before we get too much further along, because we really want to draw the contrast between Rosino and Jett. So without even saying anything about either ones, let's listen to Shane Jett. He wasn't even on this show to talk about this, but the commentator basically asked him this question. So he was kind of taken aback by the question. He was on this show to talk about the Freedom Caucus since he's the chair of the Freedom Caucus. He wasn't thinking he was going to be asked this question, I don't believe. But listen to this.
We got a phone call on Friday afternoon saying that a woman that we knew, friends of the family, Dana Mooney, was basically being subjected to medical kidnapping, and that's how our afternoon started on Friday. And so what had happened is the anonymous phone tip line for DHS was used to raise accusations against the family, many of which were false, and so it had weaponized that system to notify the media, or I'm sorry, notify DHS that there was medical neglect, which was not true. Right.
Okay, now so let's stop and think about this a second. One of the very first things he said was, we were notified that a friend of the family. He's not even her senator. They're just friends. And he dropped everything to try to protect this woman's parental rights.
Correct. And you'll notice the difference in demeanor. When someone's speaking the truth, I mean, you interview enough people and you really start to see this. When someone's speaking the truth, they're very comfortable with their truth. They include facts. He talks about exactly what happened, exactly how it happened. He knows that there's an anonymous tip to this hotline, and that's an issue. He talks about Preston being taken to the hospital and forced treatment. This man is obviously immersed in the reality of what's happening. It's not platitudes. It's not, this is unfair. This is unfair to me. It's not any of that. It's the perspective of the constituent who, like you said, is not even his constituent.
I just think watching the two of them talk, for people who think, well, I don't like the nomenclature, and I don't like the term rhino. I don't like that. All you have to do is see these videos back to back, and I am going to edit them to go back to back and put them together, because I think this is such an instructive thing. It's such an instructive way to look at what we're supposed to be seeing as opposed to what we are seeing in our representative government right now. It's literally actually like a TED Talk.
Yeah. Well, and I and I ask my own legislators to step in and do something on Dana's behalf, and I get an email back that literally says, "Y'all, I've been following this pretty close." Well, I don't see you out there like Shane talking about it. I don't see you out there doing anything. I mean, keep that in mind, you know, as we come up here, who's actually out there doing something on behalf of Dana or the people of Oklahoma against these tyrannical institutions.
That's a great point. It's clear that Senator Jett understands that this does affect his constituents, because if this state agency can behave this way and target and steal a child from someone in Canadian County, they can do it anywhere. He understands this is an Oklahoma issue, and all of our representatives should be speaking up about broader issues. This is not a Potawatomi County agency or a Canadian County agency. This is a statewide agency that has serious issues going on.
Spoken compassion and truth is a lot different than trying to cover up misinformation. 100%. This is a great comment.
It is. There's something so satirical. If it wasn't so serious for Oklahoma, this actually would be comedic. But Oklahoma is very much, the state government of Oklahoma in 2025 is very much at the same position that the federal government was at in 2015 when Donald Trump came on the scene. And people really, I'm not sure how many people, your viewers understand for the most part, but I think a lot of Oklahomans don't understand that the battle's going on under the Republican umbrella. You do not win a seat in Oklahoma except for a couple of little liberal enclaves in the urban areas. You're not winning a seat in Oklahoma unless you are believed to be a conservative Republican. Believed being the key word. To be, right.
Karen says the word rhino is accurate. I use it all the time. Also, Shane's word trans Republican is a great one. I do love that word. I'm sorry. I know we're going to get.
And your use of trans in the article also, Katy. I love that.
Yes. I mean, and there's a video embedded in the article that shows, and it was in reference to this case that Senator Jett started to talk about. You need to understand these people are not standing up for the constituents. They are, they're faking it to get the office. And if you really look again, like I said, about who's shoving money where, which lobbyists they're taking from, that they're supposed to be oversight for those industries, but they're completely paid off by those industries. When you look at that and you look at the whole cabal of who has the powerful positions, they are, as Senator Jett says, universally trans Republicans.
Well, I think the problem has become this, and Michael likes me to talk about this all the time because it's true. So I had, when we were, fighting Common Core, I went into a representative's office one day and we sat down and talked, and he said, I asked the question, I said, so then what's your job? If you're not going to help stop this, what's your job? And he said, to write bills. That was his job. Right. So I think we have this problem wherein those of us who are supposed to be vetting candidates don't ask the right questions. The first question should be, why are you a Republican? I mean, and unfortunately, we saw Rob Miller. I mean, right off the bat, he couldn't answer what a Republican was. Remember that? That
was actually hilarious. And you should have pushed him on that just a little bit farther, Jenny.
Well, you were on the show with me, big guy.
Well, my connection was bad because I was at the house.
Well, it's interesting because Rob Miller, and I'm going to go into more of this in another series that I'm doing on public education right now. Rob Miller, the conservative Republican candidate in the race for state superintendent, was out on the front lawn during a celebration of Ryan Walters, the people's overwhelmingly elected state superintendent, talking about how we can't let this happen again. And he was out there with a group of the most progressive people in public education, as far left as you can get in Oklahoma. There were NGOs out there that are LGBTQ activists who actually arranged to have people coming into schools to fill certain roles as NGOs, not licensed, not certified teachers. He is completely standing with the Rural Schools Coalition, who it's one of the most progressive groups that they basically are, their job is to bring wokeism into the rural schools. He was out there hand in hand, and he was at the microphone with them celebrating that parents were kicked away from the State Board of Education table.
Yeah.
So he is a perfect example.
Yes, exactly. But so we asked him what a Republican was, and he failed the question. I mean, so it's not as though we can say it was personal. It wasn't personal. He just literally couldn't answer the question other than to say, well, I've been a Republican since I could vote. That doesn't mean
that was his answer.
I'm like, that's your answer? That doesn't mean diddly squat, actually. So we've got to ask them, you know, what does it mean to be a Republican, number one? And then what is your job? What is your job? Well, your only job is to protect my liberties. That is your only job. There is no other answer to that question. And if we don't start asking that and then making them give those answers to us, where you can watch them go, sound like Porky Pig, you know, or say, well, I've been a Republican since I could vote, because that's the answer to my question. I mean, anyway.
Correct. And some of them are, I mean, Charles McCall has not always been a Republican. He's held public office as a Democrat. He's running for governor of the state of Oklahoma as a conservative Republican now. Did he have a transition somewhere? Is that transition real, or is that transition because he's in Oklahoma and he's seeking power? And the only way to get it is to don the R.
Yeah.
It's, there's a point that I sort of want to make. Can I share I'm going to share my screen real quick.
No, I want you to, because I also want, I want you to show. So I restacked on Substack your article with, I think, or no, I pasted the first 3 or 4 paragraphs from your article in all of the stuff about the show today, because it was so well written. I mean, I almost want you to read the whole beginning of your article.
Well, let's go to the beginning, because that sort of is for the point for people, particularly who are, we have to remember this entire game is very crafted for people to fall for it. And there is a ton of money behind the marketing of these political campaigns. They have extremely slick ads. They show people's military service. They claim to be with President Trump, and they run huge media buys. So people don't know because they're not supposed to know who these people really are. But the beginning of this article says conservative Oklahoma is overrun with elected officials who only don the Scarlet R, which is Republican, to gain power and position. Those with immense power within the state's legislature, who control the narrative, the committees, the campaign funding, and the likelihood of any bill making it to the floor, are overwhelmingly fakes. Typically, those fakes maintain the facade in public while simultaneously protecting state agencies and betraying constituents behind closed doors, which I want to talk about that in a minute. They're all MAGA in campaign ads, knowing few voters track their actions at the Capitol. And then we go on to talk about this case of medical kidnapping and how it reveals the imposters from the rare people's servants, and how just the comparison of these two men and how they reacted to this situation is really the perfect political allegory for what's happened to power in our state government, particularly in the legislature. It's been pirated by these people who are feigning alignment with Oklahoma values. And once it's gone, it's gone. They are talking about big things now. We are on the edge of a cliff. So if you think about 836 and the whole jungle primary situation, they're moving into a situation where they're trying to make people with Oklahoma values never be able to choose anyone again. If we get a jungle primary, it's very simple to have a whole bunch of fake Republicans, trans Republicans, rhinos, whatever you want to call them, run and have 5 of them on the ballot and then only 2 Democrats. And even though it's an overwhelmingly Republican state, you could very easily have a general election in conservative Oklahoma with 2 liberal Democrats as your only choices.
Yes.
So people just really need to understand that. And the other narrative that's rolling around now, when we think about these 2 groups, one that's sort of represented by Senator Racino and one that is represented more by Senator Jett, who's the chair of the Freedom Caucus. And you know, I'm never all about one group. I'm watching them all equally, but it sure seems like those fighting for and advocating for their constituents in a pure of purpose way are within the Freedom Caucus, couple of dozen people out of 150. So when we look at that, the narrative going around among the cabal, and I see Senator Prieto making a comment on there. That's a term he's used a lot to talk about this consolidation of power in the legislature. So I stole it from you. Thank you, Senator. That the governor now, they're talking about the governor as if he does not have enough power, being able to choose more folks to serve in Oklahoma's deep state and for the voters to choose fewer. I'm hearing over and over and over. It's time we align the state superintendent seat with the governor and let him pick that seat. We already saw what happened. When this governor did not get his way, he sold that entire board out to the teachers' unions and the special interests. And he kicked the parent advocates off the board, essentially took all of the power, all of the voting power left. And Ryan Walters was left. The only elected member at the table was left with no power to do anything. Do you really want to have a governor do that? I mean, think about Mary Fallon in her second term and the things that happened there. So it's very scary right now that these folks are trying to shut the lid on the voters' ability to ever make a comeback.
Oh, and by the way, on Monday at 2:00, I'm going to be putting out advertising about this here pretty quick, but on Monday at 2:00, we're going to have Rashard Tortorello, it's hard for me to say his last name, come on and talk with my friend Christy Taylor on our Common Ground podcast on Monday. So those two, because I'm not very well versed in the state question 836. So Rashard's going to come on and I'm going to kind of mediate and we'll all 3 talk about it together, but we're definitely going to do that. So it'll be a Democrat and a Republican, and I'll make myself the moderator there and talking about that. So if you put that on your calendar, 2:00 on Monday.
That'll be a great conversation. I mean, you'll be able to talk. There's 4 other states that have already gone down this path, and it is not good.
Alaska.
But one point I wanted to make before we go talk a little bit more about how these men reacted to the situation, because it's worth seeing. I wanted to talk about Racino's role as chair of the Health and Human Services Committee. And this is part of how they've consolidated the power. So if you look at all of the agencies that are under HHS and under Racino's umbrella, it's not only DHS, but it's the State Department of Health and Mental Health. It's oversight for DHS, so OCCY. So basically they have both the agency and the oversight in one place, the university hospital systems, the whole healthcare authority and Sooner Care and Medicaid. So the money that's tied into all of this, the doctors licensing boards, and you look at medical kidnapping, right? So where could we have corruption that is intertwined where different people either benefit or pressured to go along with this? So DHS gets more money when kids come into care. They're underneath this umbrella. University hospital systems. It's basically a blank check. That child goes onto the taxpayer dime under Sooner Care, and everything is inarguably paid by the taxpayers. So a kid with huge medical treatment is just a cash cow for those university systems, right? And then you look at the oversight, OCCY. They have the director that's supposed to be sort of the people that keep DHS in line. The director of DHS sits on that panel. The way they have it legislated, it's everyone within the system legislating themselves. And then you look at the licensure boards, and every single medical provider basically has to kiss up to this agency. Their license is on the line. And we've seen two scary examples of how the pressure can come down on these folks. One in this case, when Dana Mooney, when a judge gave Preston back to her custody and said, nope, DHS didn't meet the legal threshold for this child being neglected or abused, back to mom. They continued to hold him in the hospital. So the hospital system was in with DHS, again, all HHS agencies, right? They continued to hold him and said, you might face criminal charges if you try to leave against medical advice. AMA is the big threat, right? And we're going to start the investigation all over with again.
Can I stop
yes.
you really fast though? Because I want people to know you embedded an audio that was taken during
Right then.
At that moment.
I did.
I thought that was absolutely one of the most instructive things I've ever heard. I mean, obviously it made Shane look great. I mean, for sure. But that's not the point. The point was I was shocked. I don't know why. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying shocked. I mean, nothing really shocks me anymore. Maybe I should say pissed off. I'm going to start using the phrase pissed off instead of shocked. It pissed me off so badly to listen to that attending physician talk to Shane and to Dana. And so if you haven't read her article, Katy's article, you need to go and read it and listen to that. It's only like 10 minutes or something. You can spare
it's like a 9-minute. It's one of the most revealing 9 minutes that you'll hear. And I do have to sort of qualify. I contacted Senator Jett about that recording, and I asked his permission for it to be included, embedded in the article, and he was unaware of the recording. He said, you have a recording of that? Because I said, you're in the middle of the night and you went and you advocated for this Oklahoman family. And he said, you have it. And I said, yes, would you like to review it before you agree to let me publish it? Now in Oklahoma, you can, but I mean, journalistic ethics would say, you ask the folks involved about publishing it. So he listened to it. He was kind of shocked that it existed. So this is catching a politician in the most pure way, doing something right when there's no microphones, no cameras that they're aware of. He didn't know. This was recorded by Dana Mooney, who was recording a lot of interactions with the hospital for her own protection.
Speaking of Dana, it's noted in medical records that DHS and the doctor decide discharge, not just the medical providers.
That's a big statement. Since when did DHS?
What's that absolute?
Since when did DHS become qualified or have the right to do any of those things? So I want you to think about this. Let's think about
how does that happen?
So Preston was not abused or neglected in any way, but let's just take the Smith family, okay, and say that they did have a child that was legitimately at risk of harm, right?
Okay.
But that child comes into emergency custody, and that child has some ongoing medical issue that medical decisions need to be made, okay? I don't know, that child's epileptic, or that child's diabetic, or that child's in the hospital. Why, even when a child is in DHS custody, wouldn't DHS be allowing parents to make medical decisions? Why? It shows such a disrespect for the relationship between parent and child, which is the exact opposite of what that agency is supposed to do. So that's huge that Dana just said that. But you're right, Shane Jett did not know. It's 9 minutes that you should listen to. And he did a masterful job. And there's a transcript of it in the article, which we can kind of go down to that. And I can tell you some of the things that he said. There's just so much
I agree with Jeremy. It's not disrespect, it's contempt.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So he enters the room after Dana Mooney had explained to them, and we'll get back to HHS on this too. Dana Mooney had explained to them, here's a letter These are providers that have chosen. This is the person this is an MD that's agreed to take care, right? She is not leaving against medical advice. She is choosing, as a parent who now had custody returned to her rightfully, these options, and she wants to discharge. The hospital says no. And in his defense, this is a resident who sounded pretty nervous. It was pretty tough until Shane Jett entered the room, which is interesting. Said, nope, we're going to call OU police and we're going to call DHS. It's AMA. You're not allowed to do that. It doesn't matter that he's back in your custody.
That made me so mad.
Right? It really shows you how they are working together.
It's like Jeremy said, it's contempt.
It is. But Jett comes in and he said, do what you need to do, but she has rights as a human being. She's not under DHS custody. He calls them out for being a state-run hospital and says, I understand you're going to have to make decisions you're going to have to live with. He explains why this is not against medical advice. And he asked the doctor, unless you're kidnapping her, are you kidnapping her? He's very straightforward about this.
No.
And in the end, it's an excellent recording. In the end, they did what they knew they legally had to, and they removed his IVs and they discharged him as they legally should. That is any family's right. Any family's right. Within hours, DHS was back banging on their door. So OU Health System made the call, and they sicked DHS back on them. So this is the part that I really want to talk about with HHS. So Paul Racino sits oversight, powerful seat as chair of all of these university hospitals, DHS, but also those licensure boards. So there was a Dr. Marsh who agreed to help treat Preston. There's actually 2 different caregivers that she identified and said, this is who's taking care. This is responsible parenting, making a choice. And the one that was on the letter even saw Preston a few days after he discharged. They did labs. His white blood cell count was coming down. The infection the hospital had given him with a bone marrow biopsy was healing. That hematoma was coming down. And he even said they were doing a good job here, right? No emergency, no anything. Within 24 hours, he submitted a letter saying, I'm no longer going to take care, right? Somebody got to him. What do they have over him? His license. A doctor has a lot to lose. Not willing to talk about any of that, but we saw that again on the grand jury petition up in Payne County. And Dr. Grellner, Senator Grellner, was on that petition. And then very quickly, after somebody said that they didn't want him to be on that position, presumably from a higher position. And I had a conversation with him. He told me he knew Charles McCall was not happy about it. He, again, hired a lawyer, entered back into the case and said that he didn't understand what the case really was and who was named in it. There are others I've interviewed who says that's just not the case. I give some grace to these doctors. Are you going to lose your whole practice to stand up for this one issue? I do understand that, but we have to look higher. Who is putting the pressure on these folks to not serve these families and to not investigate these agencies?
Well, isn't the AG's office the ultimate arbiter of these things?
You would think, not willing to comment.
So
Yep.
I do want to address something because Wendy said parental rights legislation, and I wanted to just talk about that just briefly. I won't spend much time. In 2014, Tracy Montgomery, who was the parental rights director for the parental rights, the Federation or National Parental Rights Association, worked to get a parental rights bill passed. And she did. And it was absolutely very inclusive, made it very plain, how the rights of parents. And just exactly like with Common Core, which was also repealed in 2014, we found out that they had legitimately, these legislators that we had trusted and worked with literally created legislation that was meaningless. I mean, oh, you could read it and it, it would help you with your reading and you might get some new, verbiage out of it here and there, but it did bupkis, nothing. Because the problem is this, unless there is some kind of mechanism inside the law, we call it teeth. You've heard that before. Well, this law has no teeth. If there's not some mechanism in the law to hold accountable the people that are using the law incorrectly or going against the law, nothing happens. You can get the biggest attorney, best attorney in the whole wide world, spend millions of dollars. But if there's nowhere in the bill that says, or in the law, once it becomes a law, that says, and so if this happens, then that, right?
Right.
Otherwise, that law is simply a statement, and that's it. That's all it is. It's a statement. There is nothing you can do with it. There, you can't hire an attorney and have the attorney say, oh, well, I'll get that taken care of. Because had that bill, had the parental rights bill, had any teeth in it, had any mechanism in order to be able to attack the people who were attacking our parental rights, then it would have been fine. But there's nothing in there. It's absolutely a statement of just statement. And that's
Well,
it.
What would a consequence be, Jenny? What do you think? Like, what would a consequence for that parental rights bill? What's just a good one?
So for example, let's say that we were following the parental rights legislation and the parent has ultimate say over the health of the child, right? Yeah. So you would say, if a state agency, because we're only going to focus on, no, we would have to focus on any. If any state agency or private institution usurps these 5 rights of this parent, then you would have, like, for example, with DHS, you could say a private organization would have their license removed or fined. The DHS would be fined a certain amount of money, that there's nothing in there. So that parental rights bill is nothing but just a statement. And it's interesting to me because Tracy Montgomery worked with, I'm going to forget her name. She was a senator. She now works for largest data, they're not a data center. They oh my goodness, I feel so old at this point. Like, I'm losing my mind. She's one of the ones that is for the state question, and she works for it's Paycom. Oh my God, finally. She works for Paycom. I don't know why I can't think of her name. AJ Griffin, Sarah Van Alstyne is my friend. So Tracy worked with AJ Griffin to get this law in play. Well, I think what we can say now, from what we've seen of former Senator AJ Griffin, and now she's out stumping for the state question 836, then I think we should have, I think we can tell what happened there. She probably got sidetracked by a bunch of people saying, no, we can't have this make any sense. We just want the people to be fooled into thinking that they have some kind of rights here. Well, we have all the rights, whether they're enumerated on a piece of paper or not.
Is this like the Inflation Reduction Act that increased inflation? Is this? Yeah, and Jenny, you said Paycom. And when we think back to COVID and the connection of Paycom to, their founder put out letters trying to mask your kids, close schools,
Oh, yeah.
all of those things, actually was willing to sue after putting public letters out, sued OCPA for just reporting on those, printing those public letters that they'd already given to all the MSM in town.
Yep.
So it is that again is part of this, the duplicity of the money behind these things. They're going to put money behind candidates and legislation that's being pushed by those candidates that is duplicitous. It's going to sound like a good thing for Oklahomans, but it's going to consolidate power. So,
Well, and
Michael,
I think that's what people
go
need to
ahead.
know.
Yes, and Michael, one example of what are sort of the consequences that you could put in. Representative Gabe Woolley has 2 bills associated with DHS that are carrying over. He did an interim study about them, and one of them, I believe it's 1100, actually has criminal consequences. There's a huge pattern of DHS workers, supervisors, representatives lying in court about families. They don't want to lose. They're aligned with the DA. They think they're on the same team. They've lost all their checks and balances that used to be there in the court to keep all of these folks in line. And they're lying on the stand. I know there's lying going on in the Dana Mooney case. There's lying right now. And this bill would bring criminal consequences. If you and I went into court and lied about a family and caused them the kind of harm that DHS is capable of causing, we would face criminal charges, or we would be sued 6 ways to Sunday. So now he's trying to put something in place that increases the standard, the level of proof for DHS to be able to even take a child into emergency custody. And then it provides for some consequences for DHS workers. You have to do your work with fidelity, or there could be criminal consequences. And that is, that's blasphemy among the political set. So I really appreciate Gabe Woolley for coming out, Representative Woolley, and being willing to talk that boldly in defense of families.
Well, and I guess we just basically need some type of consequence bill that basically says this could be a consequence of every action of any prior bill, would refer back to this consequence. So you don't have to go back and change every single bill or, whatever. We just need a state criminal, accountability consequence bill that would retroactively apply as a consequence to violating any prior, statement, Jenny, of any other bill.
Well, there's some interesting comments here. So Wendy says too many Oklahoma laws have no teeth. Same thing with masking kids during COVID. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
We have to go to SCOTUS decisions. This is true. It's absolutely, we're at the point where we have absolutely no justice system in Oklahoma. And
true.
Dana says, and this is the point, even with teeth, who's going to hold them accountable? We have laws against conflict of interest among elected officials, and they don't care. Look at what we did. Katy, you wrote all of that, and we did a whole show about the conflict of interest with these board members on the State Board of Education. Nobody cares. Who cares?
No, because the power positions in the legislature are held by these trans Republicans. It's designed that way. And there's another level to checkmate Oklahoma voters. And that level is oversight. So if you look at the education level, what we need is undue legislation. We need some legislation to undo these extra agencies they've put in as cover. So DHS has the OCCY. You can ask, Daryl Doherty, who's the father who ended up arrested after he filed the grand jury petition. It was on $1 million bond. You can ask him how useless the OCCY is in protecting families. It protects the government. It's supposed to be that step in between. Look at education. They passed legislation to create the OEQA, the Oklahoma
Quality Education,
Quality and Education
Accountability.
Yes, quality and accountability. It is a cover. They used it in several narratives to bludgeon Ryan Walters to get that elected representative out of there. They are never going to rule for the people. And then look at Loft. the oversight of financial transparency for the legislature. Look who's on it. It's all of these same people. So they keep layering these things on that are keeping Oklahomans from getting to the corruption. They need to go.
Well, Dana said, I wrote legislation last session to add teeth for the Parental Rights Act and was ignored. It was never heard in committee. Guys, if you don't know what the problem is, I hope from watching this, you figured out what the problem is. They can look right at you and say, oh, we wrote, you have parental rights. And then you try to say, I'm exercising my parental rights. And they go, oh, well, okay. Thanks for letting me know. And they move on. I mean, there was another one on here that was what Lisa said. How about actual laws that say no state agency shall have authority to oppose, resist, challenge, supersede, replace, or displace parental decisions, medical, educational, or otherwise? Yeah. Bingo. That's all it would have to say. Period. Somebody out there take it. Lisa's already written it for you. Make it happen.
I agree. I mean, we're at a funny place where you see things like child welfare. I mean, there's been debate about child welfare since states started sort of adding those agencies in the 70s and 80s with legislation. We didn't always have child welfare, kind of like we didn't always have USAID. It was all sort of added, and they use these horror stories, which of course there's heinous abuse, there's heinous child abuse that should be looked at, taken care of. But what's happened over the decades is they've shifted from law enforcement handling these things and things being criminally prosecuted to it is all going to DHS. And those crimes are not being prosecuted. And DHS now has this supreme authority over all family affairs. So that's a matter of not law, not policy. No one ever said if a crime occurred as defined by state statute that you just say, oh, let DHS work with the family. Had we been doing that, we'd have so many fewer DHS cases, and we may not be having this conversation.
Wendy had another good comment. You're asking the state to hold itself accountable. They're not going to do that, but they will punish average citizens unjustly in so many laws that they need to protect their system. And if you don't understand that that is absolutely the definition of tyranny, educating people who don't want to be educated is a struggle, obviously. But if we don't start doing it, the system isn't for you guys. The system is for the state. We've got to flip that on its head and go back to the way it's supposed to be. Katie, did you want to go back? I feel bad.
No, it's okay. Some hope and bright spots here. That was sort of also the point of the article to help people to understand the entire battle is happening under the Republican umbrella.
Yes. Say that
really
again.
Is. The entire battle is happening for control of Oklahoma under the Republican umbrella. You are either on the side of these entrenched folks, and as we saw from you watch that Your Vote Counts show, and you've got Dunnington, you've got Scott Mitchell, and you've got Racino pretending like we have some kind of a full spectrum conversation. No, that is the entire part that is the trans Republican part. These are the people that actually have power right now. It is much harder to take someone out of power than to prevent them from getting it. And we look at the reaction of Senator Shane Jett, even when people, some of it, he went on national programs. He went on the Tom Renz show, and he's a leading voice nationally for these kind of medical freedom cases. He did do some very public things and talked about this case, but behind the scenes was advocating for an Oklahoman in the way that we should be demanding all of our representatives do. Yes. And we need to have some accountability. Now, the hope in this is that the folks on that side are growing. Oklahoma went to sleep and they took control, but we have more and more hopeful representatives and senators who are coalescing around the Freedom Caucus. There's approximately 13 states that now have a Freedom Caucus. They're all being targeted like Oklahoma from the outside to take power away from the people. So we see sort of a national trend with this as well. But what makes me hopeful in this is that the people, when this story came out, when Racino went on that show, and he's a regular guest on that show, but that particular Sunday, the comments from Oklahomans were, they get it. I consider this the new polling. Political polling is absolute bunk now. It is nothing but gaslighting and part of campaigns. But when you look at the comments on social media, when people say things like, stop lying to us and stop censoring us, the fact that Racino said, these people, it frustrates him, he's infuriated, they have a platform.
Infuriated.
Yes. Quotes here, you guys haven't learned a thing over the last 5 years. We, the people, are tired of your shenanigans. They're calling it gaslighting. And someone says, I thought Republicans were against social media censorship. Now they support it. This is why they can't be taken seriously. And then you even have a Republican and a Democrat. This is so encouraging. One says it starts with all these crooked politicians. They had been going back and forth. It was a Republican and a Democrat. And the other one answered, we can agree on that, red and blue. So this has nothing to do with political parties. The fight just happens to be happening under the Republican umbrella. It's about power, and it's about taking power from the people.
You know, what's interesting is all you would have to do is watch a couple of our Common Ground shows, me and Christy Taylor, because we obviously, there are things we disagree on pretty strenuously, but you know what? So many things we agree on. Nobody wants corruption. Nobody wants injustice. It doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. Nobody wants that. And so I think what we've got right now is just a situation in which we're being played on both sides. And if people don't wake up fast, we're just in deeper, it'll be way harder to dig ourselves out. 2026 is huge. It's huge. If you don't start paying attention right now, like we said at the beginning with the insurance commission, you like that, high insurance people? You want that? Maybe you better pay attention if you don't like it. We've got 3 insurance commissioner candidates. We've already had them on the show. So come on. Good night, people. Good night. Sorry. I always have to have 2 or 3 rants.
I like it. You bring the points home. And this is just really interesting. Another sort of sign of the times is that when Senator Jett then went on KOCO and explained to the host that what trans Republican meant. And it's a great piece of video. If you haven't seen it, it's a keeper. And everyone just sort of knew immediately that's going to stick. I say he has a very Trumpian way of speaking. He uses satire because when people are speaking truth, they can be satirical and it's very effective. I see that also. But then you look how quickly it spread, even on the post from KWTV about the conversation between Dunnington, Mitchell, and Racino, down below in the comments. If this trans Republican and his Democrat cohort want better fact checking, I'd highly suggest they speak directly to the good family whose children have been taken by DHS. And then someone else says, trans Republicans said, what? So they see it. Oklahomans are waking up. They just need to be so informed because this will all happen on June 16th. It will all happen in the primaries. You will have no other actual choice.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. Dana says, pay attention. They're telling you they're the uniparty. Actions always speak louder than words.
And I do want to say to Dana Mooney, who has given me unprecedented access. She let me interview her child. She gave me access to all medical records. She has been an open book, which this is what I find about people who have been silenced and want to speak up about what DHS is doing to them. These families are some of the most open that I've ever had the honor to tell their story. They will give you every fact. They are speaking the truth. And I thank her for that. That takes a lot of trust. That takes a lot of courage. I can tell you right now, there are 2 areas of this case that I'm very concerned about for Dana Mooney, for her family, for Preston. One is that already we can see that they're adding lies. They're adding lies to the file. Immediately when they were able to somehow get the judge to put him into permanent custody, he's now technically in foster care. He's with his father. I don't really understand. They've broken a lot of protocols here, but that's another discussion.
Really?
Yes. When you're going after somebody, you'll do just about anything. And they immediately took him to OU Children's, not because he needed hospitalization again. He didn't. He'd been home and he was doing well. They took him and they did a forensic interview. And she has shared that with me. She has access to those documents. The documents go back and refer to an incident within the extended family that was investigated by police. It's a pattern that one of the children in this blended family has had. And it was investigated by police and found this did not happen, that this child, it's an adolescent, that this is a pattern of lying that this adolescent in the family had displayed before, that there was no proof of this. DHS went back, and in the forensic interview with Preston, mind you, they're supposed to be talking to just Preston and finding out about Preston's experience in a controlled environment. They took one sentence from some old records and said someone was accused of doing something bad to a child. They did not add to that report that will go to the court that law enforcement thoroughly investigated that, and it did not happen. So I already seeing them attempting to, and if you hear us, people are watching this, that this file cannot be loaded with lies. There are legislators who are watching, who have access to the file and are going to be talking about this kind of a thing. So that part of it, that worries me. People need to be on top of that, because normally parents would never know if they lied. The reports would go to the court. They would have their 2 minutes in court to defend their right to get their child back. They would have a court-appointed attorney who thinks he's on the same team as DHS, and they would lose their child over lies. So I do want people to know, be very mindful. And when people come to me and say DHS is lying, I'm going to hear them out. I'm going to let them give me my proof. So the other thing is this Youth Justice Center, the new model. And Canadian County was supposed to be the place that we're going to have this new model where everything's under one roof. We don't have DHS separately over where they office, and the judges separately where they office, and the prosecutors in the DA's office separately, and all of the services. They have all of this under one roof. And now Canadian County is the hotbed of DHS child welfare malfeasance. There were, and I don't know about the hearing today, but there was a staffing, is what they called it. Normally a staffing in DHS. And remember, I worked there. I was a child welfare worker. I know the law. I know the lingo. I know the protocol. They had a staffing, which should be just the worker and the supervisor, or just the people in the DHS office. If they have to have someone like from state office on a particularly sticky case, that is staffing within DHS. That's what they call it, where we sit down and we talk about what needs to happen in this case. Then those recommendations are packaged and sent separately to the DA and to the court. And then there are hearings where the parent is always involved. These agencies are checks and balances for each other, and they're not colluding behind the scene to have some like mind where the parent is overridden before they even come to court. That is ended. Staffing in Canadian County was the judge, the DA, the DHS workers getting together to discuss what placement should be for Preston, but it wasn't an official hearing. That's not legal. That is getting together and deciding as government and ignoring your roles to check and balance each other and leaving the family out of it. I'm extremely concerned about this model. So now Oklahoma County is working on has sort of this model going on there. It is the Parental Injustice Center, not the Youth Justice Center. It is boxing parents out and pre-concluding cases before parents have any chance to have a voice.
We have so many good comments, and I've not been able to get to all of them, but
let's do it.
Positive law and natural law never agree, and we choose every day which we live by. Writing it down was the first coup and initial separation of man from nature. I just wanted to deal with this point because I think people don't understand this. It took me a long time to understand it. myself just reading different things. Natural law is our rights given us by God, because we weren't we've not come to the point where somebody can create us and, generate us. I mean, they did make a sheep in a test tube, but she didn't make it very long. I don't see that happening on a regular basis. So God created us in the womb at this point, right? But gave all of the faculty for that to happen. So our rights don't come from any person. We're not, we have parents, obviously, and parentage, but that our rights come from our initial maker, the entity that put us here. They're inalienable. You can't take them away. But what governments have done over and over and over and over again is put them down on a piece of paper. And in our injustice system, what happens is once they're relegated to a piece of paper, they become fodder for the injustice system. And now we're in a situation where our rights can be adjudicated. People, this is a huge problem. There is a parental rights law at the national level that they're trying to get passed. I have never been on board with it. I will never be on board with it. It is a really crappy idea. Stop putting our rights on paper. Quit it. I don't want the court system having a right over my life, because it's written somewhere and some stupid attorneys can adjudicate it in front of a judge. I don't think we really think about this problem. I think we think, well, if you put it down on paper, then the judge will be able to protect us. We have seen immediately that is not what happens. You find government is in and of itself tyrannical. People are absolutely not good people. I don't care. Mother Teresa still sinned. Sorry. I mean, all you Catholics out there that now want to, shoot me, fine. But I mean, we are all human, and we all have a tendency to go to the lowest common denominator. And these are the people that are ruling us. And then we get shocked because, oh my goodness, they didn't follow this law. They didn't follow that law. It's a failed system. And having them continue to write these things on paper, screw you over even more. Our rights should not be committed to paper, because our justice system is presided over by men who are at minimum imperfect, and at worst, what we've seen in people like Paul Rosino. Sorry. I mean, that's just my personal opinion.
And that's what was so refreshing about Senator Jett. If you listen to that recording in the middle of the night, number one, he showed up. And number two, he talked completely about her rights, her right to make choices, this family's right. And then in the second show cause hearing, when after they discharged and then DHS came roaring back with the help of OU Health, the judge caught the DHS supervisor omitting evidence and lying about things, but still sided with OU Health's experts, sort of this side, never saying parents have rights. Who cares what your opinion is? A parent has a right to look at all of the information. So, and I do want to tell people next Wednesday, Dr. Ben Tapper, I don't know if you've heard of him. He was part of the Dirty Dozen that Biden's press secretary came out during COVID and said, these are the 12 people in America who are responsible for 85% of the misinformation about COVID. This guy's a practitioner in sort of a smaller place and was shocked to see himself on that list. And he's built quite a following talking about medical freedom. He was kind enough to let me talk more about, we talked on his podcast about the more medical part of this and the decisions that Dana Mooney was making and how she's actually ahead of a lot of the science outside of conventional medicine, and about how Preston is a vaccine injured child and how that played into this and how treatments would be different. We talked about genetic deficiencies, things like that. So that will air on Dr. Ben Tapper's podcast next Wednesday. Catch that if you're interested in really hearing why these decisions, when the experts in the government think they know what's best for these families or for individuals, are way off. The data is saying it doesn't work. So great point you made.
And Lisa says, one problem is that a lot of people like that sort of tyranny. They can't be reached because they truly love being governed like this and see no problem with it, agreeing with the government when they overreach. And it's true. And John Boy later on down here said something about seatbelt laws or the absolute, bottom of the barrel of tyranny, because I'll wear a seatbelt if I want. It's not the government's job to tell me what I can and cannot do because of safety. That's my purview. I do have a little bit of intelligence and I can decide that for myself, but then they can't give you a ticket, and then they can't have you pay a ticket, which then goes into the system to help perpetuate the system that continues to pull you down.
Correct. And it's funny because, you're not someone by personality that falls for the fear sort of cell. Whether it's about medical things, whether it's about your seatbelt, whether it's about whatever. And in Racino on the media, the fear cell was so big, just like that comment said about people want the government to take care of them and they fall for the fear cell. He even said in his comments on your vote counts that that the stuff is violent, could incite violence. We've seen politicians lit on fire. It was such incredible hokum, total hokum, because the politician recently lit on fire. It was this summer. It was a guy named Lee Vogler, and he was the city councilman from Virginia. The man who went into the magazine where he worked and doused him with something flammable and lit him on fire is the man whose wife that politician is alleged to have had an affair with. It had nothing to do with political reporting, with someone having a platform that made us all really at risk. That was a complete falsity. And it was trying to incite fear. And the other fear is, if we even look at DHS and say they ever do anything wrong, then kids that really need these services, and it goes into Dunnington's entire rant about the reason that people don't trust government, we're at an all-time low for trusting government, is because people are reporting on what government is doing wrong, essentially is what he was saying to us. Not that politicians have been duplicitous, and particularly in Oklahoma, it's at critical mass and people aren't going to take it anymore. The comments on that side are just absolutely ridiculous. That's why it was just so refreshing to see that we have some hope out there. And Senator Jett is not the only one. There have been quite a few legislators who've come to bat for the Moonies and other DHS families now who are in their districts who are coming forward.
Yeah, it's true. Once we get it going, Catherine kills me. She kills me.
Cosplaying a cowboy.
I saw one of his ads on TV. I never watched TV, and I saw one the other day. I was like, "Are you kidding me? This is such a joke."
Oh, between the cowboys and the bananas, and McCall's banana ad, when trying to say he was against the transgender thing, when during his speakership is when someone, independent media, outed that they were doing trans surgeries at OU Children's, who's under the HHS umbrella. And if an independent podcaster hadn't outed that with full force, there was either a 10 or 12-year-old girl who had her breasts removed at OU Children's.
Actually, the parent should be in jail for that.
Yes. Who should be making the medical decisions? I don't think it's OU Children's.
Well, and that, oh my goodness. Karen says that's why we need cameras in courtrooms. And you've talked about that too, Kate, about the fact that what goes on in there, it's ludicrous. Everybody should be able to see what's going on in a courtroom. There should be cameras that should be broadcast 24/7 as long as the courts are open.
And in this world of technology, those videos should not be lost. No. And I cannot tell you how many times in controversial cases they're lost. Does anyone know that the live feed that's out on the internet, I was told this last night. I was actually doing an interview at the time of the new State Board of Education meeting. When they came back from executive session and were about to vote on all those things like the accused predators that they're now returning to classroom en masse.
Yes.
The camera didn't come back on in public session.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, never happened. Hasn't happened in the last year, but here we are.
But nobody's going to pitch a fit over that like they did with the porn on the television. What?
Exactly. There's no excuse here where there shouldn't be a camera, even where it's private, even where juvenile deprived court, those families should be allowed to have video of their court hearing. They should be allowed transcripts of everything.
Okay, I'm putting this one up just because I agree. Katy, you're a treasure. We'd have no idea about these lies if it wasn't for your reporting.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, true that.
My thanks to the Mooney family. They are going through it, and they spent a lot of time with me being able to report their story.
Oh, well, and she was kind to me too. So we'll put that up there so we both got it.
Thank you.
Well, and Dennington is a lobbyist, and the lobbyist firm works for CPS, so that's a good thing.
That's a good point.
There's a lawyer suing Tulsa for turning off the feed for public comments.
They do.
Maybe we ought to find
you would
out.
you would be very surprised how often at just the right moment cameras don't happen, transcripts are lost, court clerks won't give you something.
Yeah, I mean, it's if we could take our regular viewers and just stamp out about 200,000 more of these people, I mean, we would, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we'd have the whole world back.
Oklahoma would be personal freedom utopia.
It would be actually red instead of pretend red, cosplay red. That was so funny.
Exactly.
So Preston is not in his mother's custody.
No,
he is
no.
not.
And it felt throughout this that the goal, particularly the second article, if you go back and read that at V1SUT.com, was political persecution. And I'm going to talk more about that because the culture of that agency is so misaligned to the populace that I don't know how you could say that they're representing Oklahoma or helpful.
I think the biggest problem that we have is the people who, like our viewers who pay attention, and they do share. I know they do share. Unfortunately, the majority of the population, even if they might agree with us, simply it's not on their radar. What's on their radar is the 10 o'clock news before maybe they go to bed or they go out or I don't know, whatever. And what they're going to do over the weekend. I mean, where am I going to go to eat? What am I mean, we are such a frivolous society. We don't even know what's important anymore. What's important to us is, are we going to have to wait in line at the steakhouse for 10 minutes? Can we get it online? Can we do a reservation online so we don't have to wait? That's what's important, not the fact that if you overstep what the government wants, they'll take you into custody and good luck getting out.
Mm-hmm. And it's hard to have bandwidth to take all this in. It's very difficult for me to have bandwidth to be following all of these things. So I can see why people at certain stages of life, they just can't do it. They're taking care of children. They're doing that, and those are noble priorities. I applaud that. But I think if you are at a station of life when you have some time and bandwidth, as I've said, you don't need a degree in journalism to be digging in. Mine's not doing me any good right here. This is a whole different game. I can tell you that, that to get involved somehow. And congratulations to your viewers, because let me tell you, I got to meet a lot of them in person outside the Youth Justice Center in Canadian County, advocating for the Mooney family and for family rights. So you have an impressive audience. Mm-hmm. Good people.
Yeah, I mean, they're super good people and they're doing the right thing. And I agree with you. I mean, when you're young, your focus should be on your family. I mean, it should be. Mm-hmm. But still in all, you've got to pay enough attention so this kind of stuff doesn't bite you in the backside. I mean,
that's right.
Well, and what Valerie says is right. Realistically, we only have the illusion of freedom. Step out of line and they'll wreck your life. I mean,
Correct.
it's very true. And I'll be honest. I mean, this lawsuit that I've encumbered myself with over the state election board, I have a great attorney. I'm very happy with him. It's a great law firm. They've been very good to me and worked very hard on my behalf. But what justice do we really have? I mean, we've seen justice not prevail over and over and over and over again. And you just at the federal level and the local level. So there is a level of trepidation that I think all Oklahoma citizens should have about what could happen to them if they fall on the wrong side of somebody that doesn't like them and they're in government.
I agree. It's what's made this case so incredibly important. And as someone who worked in that agency and understands how things are supposed to go, but also understands how they actually do go. The Mooney case, Dana Mooney, which this is an exception to the rule. Most people who come in contact with DHS do not have an exceptional attorney. Daniel McClure has done a great job representing her. She has political connections. She has people like Shane Jett and Senator Prieto is on here. Molly Jenkins, Gabe Woolley. There are a bunch of folks, JJ Humphrey, that have been fighting the DHS fight, both seasoned and freshmen that are fighting the DHS fight. So she has those folks on her side. Most people don't have that. They're run over by the system. So that's what we need to put in place. We need to put in place that every family has this kind of a voice in the courtroom so that they can fight back. Yeah,
I 100%. And it's sad too, because I think we've allowed our government to be able to instill a certain amount of fear in us for our behavior. And the other day I got a crank call from somebody who was pretending to be with the Canadian County Sheriff's Department, and they wanted to talk to me on urgent business. And so I called somebody who knows the Canadian County Sheriff's Department, and they were like, that's a hoax. What they're trying to do is scare you into saying that somebody that you know has a warrant and you need to come down and pay it, right?
Okay, scam.
Or you need to pay it out. So it's a scam. But even me, the up yours with both hands kind of a gal, you get that kind of feeling, and you're like, oh man, because the power these people have over you. Mm-hmm. And it's a game. And it doesn't have to do with justice. And if they want to see you in there, they'll put you in there. And you're right. It would be really hard to get away with doing it for me because I'm too well known. But right. Who else could? I mean, it could be somebody else.
Right. And look at it. We've talked about there are only 4 chairs of Moms for Liberty. 2 of them, Dana Mooney and Roberta Lewis, I've told both of their stories, have had their children medically kidnapped by DHS. Right. That's very big. Here's the boomerang of freedom coming back at them. Roberta Lewis is running for a state house seat. Yeah. Her interaction with this agency convinced her that she needs to go represent the people with fidelity. And that's the kind of thing that I see coming around, that new candidates are coming out of this.
I mean, because when you figure the game out and that the game isn't in your favor, it's like, what's the, and may the odds be ever in your favor. I mean, but that's where we are. Y'all are laughing, but it's so true. I mean, I feel like we all need to sign off with that, because it's like, this is where we are and people don't see it.
Nope.
I got to get my dinner reservations. Good
candidates step up. It is all about June 16th. And I don't really advocate for any particular candidates. I just sort of report on what they do. But Roberta Lewis has been an incredibly strong voice in this fight. She was in that hospital room in the middle of the night when Shane Jett came in to advocate. She was already there advocating. It looks like we have a powerhouse who's going to be on the House floor. So worthy of support.
No, absolutely. Rhonda says even the DA goes along with what DHS wants to do. And it's true. I mean, and Gracie says, as it stands today, justice is just a dream. And that's just pathetic. Yeah. And we do need more people like Roberta stepping up for politics.
Well, and we need to throw up, Jenny, we need to throw up.
Do not throw up on this program.
We need to throw up the Give, Send, Go for Preston.
Oh, yes.
Put that up.
Pennies for Preston.
Pennies for Preston or something. Mm-hmm. I can't remember then. I just hope sometime in the future they can come back for medical malpractice or sue them for, not having informed consent or the proper consent or, whatever, negligence, misconduct, whatever. I mean, I hope they can absolutely sue the hell out of them over OU Medical and DHS.
Well, I mean, until people decide that they're going to take, but here's the problem. My attorney has been, very kind. I've had to pay the things that he's had to pay out of pocket. So, anytime he gets a bill from someplace, I pay that. And people have been such a blessing and stepped up and helped me pay those things because I just had had to send, I think, $3,200 to him. Which isn't a little bit amount, but people pitched in and they helped me send that off. But the problem is this: how many attorneys are out there that are going to do like my attorney has done and take the case on, basically pro bono? I mean, because here's something that we haven't talked about. And while this is up there and people are getting that and being able to go there. Oh, okay. Hold on.
I also added it to the comments. There you go.
Yes, you sure did. Let's get that up there. And then Roberta says it also needs to be noted that Daniel McClure is running for Pot County District Attorney and is also a powerhouse.
See, we're creating candidates. I love it.
I mean, it's true.
And again, Daniel McClure is the representation for the Moonies in court in this DHS case, and he's doing a phenomenal job.
Yeah. I was going to say something. I forgot what it was.
Okay. Well, if you have time and you need some hope, go through the article at V1SUT.com and watch the videos. It's an exercise in satire. There is hope. June 16th is coming. Be prepared.
Well, people have got to stand up and run too. I mean, that's the other thing that we've got to do is get people to step out of their comfort zones. I mean, that's not anything exciting. I mean, it's a tough job. And I've said this 100 times. When I was mayor, we had several difficult votes to make that were uncomfortable to have to make because you knew somebody wasn't going to be happy, whatever you said, right? Those are tough. And people say to themselves, I don't want to have to do that. I don't want to have to do that. And so they're not willing to put themselves out there and do it. And it is tough. I didn't enjoy doing it, but once you do it and it's done and you realize the world didn't cave in and it's not, you're still alive and can do something, the next day, it kind of wears off. But people have got to start realizing that they've got more strength than they think. And certainly if you're a Christian, you can do anything through Christ. So we've got to make sure that we're saying that kind of stuff because it's so important to get people to step out of their comfort zones and to do things that will help all of us. This is a good one. If our attorneys were actually taught constitutional law in school, maybe we'd have more attorneys willing to fight for our rights. That is, I mean, our law schools are so bad. Well, case law. No, not case law. There's nothing in the Constitution about case law. So stop.
That's that real problem, Jenny, is all those attorneys have gotten a hold of every single thing with all their legalese and people. It's just like with finances. People have no idea about all these financial products and all those things. It's the same thing with attorneys, and the fees are so high, you can't participate. You literally can't participate even yourself. If you try to represent yourself or whatever, there's all the hoops you got to jump through and all the things you got to do just to comply with whatever the judge says or wants. I mean, it's so removed from the Constitution and just regular representation.
It is. Agreed.
Well, and Jeremy says this too. Our dark rule was created under the Constitution. Bush was right about this one thing. It's just what we talked about before. Once you write things down, then people can use them against you, and as well as for you, but they're more likely to use them against you, which is why writing things down can be such a huge problem in terms of, us protecting our rights. And it's true too, what Karen says, there are just too many uninformed, naive voters. And speak to that again, Michael, how many people you would talk to on the doorstep.
Yeah. Yeah. I would literally, we knocked 10,000, 12,000 doors, whatever it was in school book. And the school board campaign, I would talk to, and I had a printed list, a front and back of 2 book reports in the school that my daughter had to read these books. And that's why I specifically chose those books. We'd talk to people. I'd literally talk to someone. I'd show them this. I'd say, this is a book my daughter is forced to read right now that I can't even remove that. She has to read this. They're like, those books aren't in the school. You're lying. Literally, people would tell me I'm lying. And we're knocking Republican doors. Okay. They're telling me I'm lying about the book my daughter's reading in school. So it's like that across the board. People just don't want to take responsibility that as bad as everything is, it's their fault. They're a part of the problem because they're so disconnected with social media or, whatever it may be, that they're not involved. They're not informed. They're so naive. They just believe everything that they see on TV and that's it.
Or on TikTok.
Yeah.
Yep. You have to push past the denial. It's difficult.
Well, guys, and Katy, I'll just say this again. Really, honestly, it was just a blessing to find you all those years ago when you did, what was the name of the series? How to Steal a State.
It's actually still going. It's playing out in real life.
Yeah,
it should have never stopped.
Yeah, if you guys haven't gone to Katy's Substack, you really need to go, because if you are naive, but there's a part of you that doesn't want to be naive, if you will go read some of Katy's old stuff on her Substack and How to Steal a State, that's what somebody sent me, one of her early Substacks, and that's how I got on to Katy in the first place. Was reading her stuff going, I don't know who this is, but she knows a lot.
Well, it's a strategy and a game that is decades long. We're just at the crescendo now. So if you don't understand sort of the 25-year history of Oklahoma politics and how we got here, it's kind of like reading a novel that you're walking through because you live here. So up at the top on V1SUT.com, there are different headings across the top. How to Steal a State is one of them. So dig in. It's pretty interesting. You'll relive portions that you remember, and you'll see them very, very differently because you'll see behind the curtain.
Hey, Earl's daughter said the Give Send Go link gave an unknown error, 403. I'll look it up. Just wanted to let you know.
Oh, let me do it one more time. I'm on it, but you can go to Give Send Go and just do the search and do pennies for Preston, and it comes right up. That might have been my error. Hang on, I might have not have gotten the whole thing. So I just posted it one more time.
Okay.
Yeah,
there it is.
There we go.
That's the one I see.
Okay. All right. We've got it fixed now.
Great. Thank you all so much. And we'll keep talking from here to June 16th and beyond.
Yeah.
Well, Katy,
Okay,
thanks for joining us again.
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you.
and Katy, I'm so glad you're not married anymore, and we get to see your radiant, beautiful face and just you as a person. We can relate. We can relate all those words.
Well, I appreciate that.
You put down there on Substack to somebody. So I'm glad you're out front.
I appreciate that. Anonymity doesn't last long in this world, but thank you all for reading and sharing the content and spreading some truth. I appreciate it.
Well, we love you, Katy. You're the best. And we will talk more later.
Back at you.
Well, you and I will talk quite a bit, but we won't see us again until after the first of the year. So
that's right. Dig in DHS December.
That's right. We'll talk to you soon, Katy.
Bye.
Bye. I'm going to take this down just for now so we can close out.
She couldn't have titled that any better. Tale of Two Senators. I mean, how bad is Racino?
Well, I loved taking the clips of both of those so you could see the two things and just listen to the words out of Racino's own mouth, because I don't know how you can't listen to that and just be disgusted.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really just disgusting.
Yeah.
I mean, ugh. So you basically just said we're offending you and you're not worried about how you're offending us. And that's mainly your basic role. So, I don't know.
Well, and the worst part about it is a guy like that up there making all these decisions, backing these state institutions, against people like Dana and Preston. Guy just like that. That's the guy right there.
Yep.
And think of how many hundreds, if not thousands, of those people are making those decisions against us every single day.
100%. 100%. So I hope you guys don't mind, but I'm going to throw this in too, since we've had Preston's up. I'm going to throw, maybe I will. I might. All right, there we go. I'm going to throw my, this is my Gibson Go for my election board lawsuit. And I'll just give you a brief update before we get off of here, since we won't be back until after the first of the year. So it has been, the judge did rule in the case that we will have a trial. My attorneys and the election board attorney, who is, of course, the AG's office, the assistant AG, have been going back and forth, getting information and filing data. And according to what my attorneys are saying now, it looks like the trial is going to be in either February or March. They moved it back by a request from the defendant, wanted to move it back. And I will say this, that's of interest. So just recently, Election Board Secretary Paul Zierix had himself removed from the case. The AG petitioned the judge, and the judge took him out of the case because he claims he did not vote on whether or not I was fired. And I thought it was very interesting. You can look up the paperwork yourself. It's all public, it's all public record in the federal court system. So I just thought that was interesting and something that I wanted to share. I guess I don't understand how a secretary, like the head of an agency, I thought the buck stopped there.
Yeah.
So,
well, hit Sherry's comment too there, just for anyone that may be on that doesn't know.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Sherry. I appreciate that. So I was an alternate member of the Oklahoma County Election Board. And what that meant was, when the actual member, who was Cheryl Williams, when the actual member was not there, then I would sit in. Well, I was very distressed because what was going on is what you see in the picture there linked on my Give, Send, Go account. So when I first came to be, Cheryl and I became to be the Republican member and the alternate, this is what we found. And so absentee ballots were being counted in another room while the members sat there. You can see one of the members on the far right side of the screen. You can see the member right there. And all we could see was what was on the closed captioned television. So there was never any interaction at all with anything other than, well, the absentee ballots would come in. People would take off the envelopes in a separate room and then give us the inner envelopes, the ones that have the affidavits on them, and that we would check those, and then they would go back. But the point to be counted, but we never got to see them being counted or loaded into the machine, or we never got to have any contact with any of that. And that's not what state law and the Oklahoma OAS say. They say that we are supposed to be able to at least be in the room and see what's going on when all of this happens. And so I said, this isn't right. You're not following state law. And Cheryl and I both said, you're not following state law. You're not even following Oklahoma, the rules that are made from state law. So state law comes and then they make rules, administrative rules that outline how that law is supposed to work. And I said, you're not following Oklahoma administrative rules. You're not following the state law. And so we made a big stink out of it. And what ended up happening was at one point, we sent a letter to Paul Xerix and explained what was the matter and, how things needed to be done and what laws were being broken. And so then Cheryl and I both were asked to appear before the state board and the alternate members of the state board and in a executive session, which for me lasted over an hour. And then they brought me back in again for another 15 minutes. And I was not allowed to have access to notes or anything. I just had to, stand there and listen or answer questions. And at the end of that, not only were Cheryl and I fired, but it was suggested that our names be sent to the Oklahoma AG and the Oklahoma County DA for investigation.
Yeah. Wow.
And so that was honestly, the firing is one thing, but the threat of being turned over to the highest police, basically authorities in the state for investigation, was too much for me to bear. And I said, no, we're not doing that. And Shelley, who was there, is right. It was an inquisition. Let me share. I'm so sorry. Hold on. I can do just that. Here it is. Okay, I think what it is if you go to Give, Send, Go and then you say follow Oklahoma election law, it comes up, because that's all I'm saying. Follow election law. So that's my Give, Send, Go account. So thank you for asking, Earl's daughter. I very much appreciate that. Sherry asks, why do you think, what did they think you needed to be investigated for? And I guess that was my question. So yeah. I've never been in trouble. I've never had a lawsuit against me. I don't even have a ticket on my record. I don't remember the last time I ever got even a ticket, like a traffic ticket. So
you're
exactly,
a rebel.
what are
Jenny,
you?
You're a real rebel.
I know. So exactly, I'm not sure what you want to investigate me for when Not quite sure about that. So yeah, that's why I said, if this is the way we're going to do business, then I'm not doing that business. We're not going to do that, because if they can do that to me, they're going to do that to you. And it's exactly what I'm talking about with Dana Mooney. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if we don't start pushing back against these people, guys, they're just going to continue to take the ground we cede. And I don't mean SEED, I mean CEDE.
Yeah. Well, that's how they operate.
Cede them this ground.
Yeah, they operate out of intimidation and fear. I mean, that's literally how the government operates.
That's exactly correct. And Sherry said, that's crazy, just trying to silence you. Well, that was how I felt, was that I was being silenced. I was being scared into doing something.
Yeah.
And that's just not the way government ever should work for anybody. It's not just me. I mean, it's not just me. I'm doing this for everybody. I don't want anybody to be treated the way I've been treated or the way Dana has been treated.
Yep.
This government is out of control, and it's up to us, the citizens, to stop it. And if Dana has to get involved and stop it and start a give, send, go to do it, and I have to do it, it doesn't matter. We all have to do it. We have to push back. We have to get our rights back. We have to take our government back, because government is for protecting our rights, not scaring us into doing something they want us to do.
Yep.
So I love this one. Shelley says, we need a state fund for a team of lawyers to go after them. But that's true, because so think about it. Just like anybody who goes up against the government, I'm having to use my money to fight people paid for by my tax dollars to fight me.
Yep.
Make that make sense. Make that make sense. You can't make that make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy. So anyway, so that's it. So now you've got 2 gifts and goes. So if you get Christmas money, I guess that's so if you get Christmas money, I guess you can do that. All right, so I'm going to put that away for now. I'm going to get rid of that, and we can sign off for today.
Well, not just for today, for the rest of this year.
We sure can. We will sign off for the rest of this year. Thank you so much, guys, for watching us this year. You've been a blessing. We just couldn't ask for a better audience. Don't you believe that, Michael?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I mean, we just love you guys so much. And thank you so much for watching and sharing and doing what you do.
I mean, the comments are literally the best.
I know.
Talk
I know.
about
I absolutely love them. And so when we come back in January, our January show is going to be devoted. It's almost all filled. I've only got 1 date left. It's all filled by people who are going to come on and talk about legislation that we need to support or we need to go against, that will be coming up in the next year's session, which starts on February 4th. And don't forget, in February also, we've moved our conference to the end of February, the 26th through the 28th. You're going to want to come to that, and I'll be putting out some advertisement on that over the holiday season so that you guys will be able to have some stuff to share with other people, because we do need to pay attention to that, because it's going to be a great time to get together in February, just as the legislature is starting to coalesce and do what we need to do to get our rights back. That's what that whole program is about. So I hope you guys have a happy Thanksgiving. I hope you have a very, very Merry Christmas. Christmas is my favorite time of the year. So it's my favorite time to just, and after this knee replacement, I want to just take some time, get my head back in a good place. Man, having that pain is just, need to get a little sanity back. So that's what that's for. So Michael, I love you. You're the best. I'm going to miss broadcasting with you until January, but I know we'll talk. So
likewise, Jenny White.
I know. Thanks again, everybody. What?
And for Earl's daughter, you won't have to have withdrawals. We'll just have some unbelievable replays that need to be replayed.
Oh, I love this. May this break be filled with joy, peace, and abundant love. Bless you guys. Same thing back. Same exact sentiment to all of you guys out there. We just appreciate you so much. Thank you so much. And just all prayers for peace for this Christmas season and Thanksgiving season. Love you guys. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again on January. I think it's 4th is our first show. So we'll see you then. And until then, don't forget, we're still on and it's DHS December. So watch those shows and share. All right. See you soon.